next question then. Chris Brooker, he says, I've been watching a lot of WCW in 1992 and 1993 as of late. Really enjoyed Shane's team with Ricky Steamboat. How did that come about, and any memories that stand out? Loved the Starcade match with Pillman and Wyndham, in particular. Overlooked belter.
Memories of Ricky Steamboat, how it came about was I had, prior to that, 92, I was teaching special ed at the time in Industry, Pennsylvania. And not Shawn Michaels, these brain farts with names anymore. Marty Jannetty had called me up and said he had spoken to Kip Fry. They wanted to bring us in as the new Rockers because we had that brief period where we had done the Rockers thing in WWF when Shawn was hurt at $5,000 a week. So I put my notice in for teaching. I'm quitting this job. You can't go back and say, hey, I was just playing. I'll keep my job. So not long before we were supposed to go in, there's that party at Marty's house where a young woman ends up dead. And
whoa, hang on. I don't know the story here. What's the...
Yeah. I think, as I remember the story, it wasn't like she was killed or anything. I think she just overdosed or something, but there's a woman dead in his house. And Kip Fry, being an attorney, sort of went, yeah, we ain't touching this. and I called him. I said, Kip, I've quit my job, and for this, and I didn't have a dead lady in my house, So they brought me in, but there was the $5,000 wasn't guaranteed now because that was for something different. So Bill, before I went in, Kip had been fired and Bill Watts was brought in. And I had worked for Bill previously in the UWF. He was well aware of who I was and knowledgeable of my skills. And he pulled me aside and said, Shane, I need a favor from you. They didn't give me a full budget, and Kip had spent the entire quarter. So he wanted me to work for $300 a night. And he was the one that conjured this idea of me and Ricky Steamboat. So I thought in my head, I'll gladly work for $300 a night to work with Ricky Steamboat, and the promise was next quarter we'll bring you up to speed. Well, the next quarter he came to me and said, still having problems. I feel so bad about this, but if you give me one more quarter, and I'm working now with Ricky, right? And I said, I'll give you one this quarter, but next quarter I'm done. And during that second quarter is when he crafted the Hollywood Blondes, and the infamous story of me being called to the office to be put with Brian and work a program with Ricky, which I turned down. And because I wanted to stay with Ricky, and it wouldn't have worked. It was still Ricky Steamboat and Shane Douglas. I hadn't yet been pulled up to his level or near. And but we had a great team to work with. Steve was making like 3-something, high twos, 320, like in that range. Brian was making, I think, 256, and Steamer was making like 600 or 700, which he certainly deserved. But I was one quarter of that match, and I'm being paid $300 a night. The next quarter, right before this quarter starts, Bill gets fired, and Ole Anderson gets brought in. So I tell Ole, talk to Bill, what was going on and what was promised. He tells me to come down to the office the following Monday, and I do. We go into his office, and he said, I reviewed your contract, and I don't see what you're complaining about. That's what I made when I was your age. And I went like, what? I said, like, well, so what was a hotel room then? $10 a night, $20 a night, dinner, gas.
He'd never heard of inflation then, had he?
Yeah, he missed that class. But so eventually I was brought up. I think it was 23, maybe a week, $3,000. But it wasn't he that did it. I think it was who came in after him. But at that point, it was the politics of the place were just eating it up. And then the whole Dos Hombres thing, where I had the shoulder scoped and needed like 2 or 3 weeks. So when I heard that they were doing this, putting somebody else in there as Shane Douglas, I thought, like, boy, this is A, really unprofessional, and B, it overtly looked to me, like an overt attempt to make me look really bad, and which was in contrary to what they were telling me on the phone the whole time I was off. So I basically walked away. Steamboat, though, I can't talk enough about the guy. I really, really look up to him and love him as a friend because he taught me so much. But he does something at the end of that match where the Dos Hombres lose to the Blondes. He jumps up and he pulls his mask off. Well, everybody that I talked to was coming to me and said, I can't believe Steamboat did that to you. I said, did what? And he said, I took his mask off and like made sure everybody knew it was you that lost. And I went, yeah, that's not what Ricky did. I said, because Ricky doesn't think that way, right? But what was he doing? So when I finally watched it, I went, oh, he's telling the world that ain't Shane Douglas. Because why didn't Shane take his mask off? Just again, one of those guys that understood those nuances to such a deep degree that I, at that time, didn't get. But I just said, Ricky, I'll read you the text that I sent to him. Because I mean this from the bottom of my heart. He was very much an inspiration. I mean, very much a teacher to me. That this is what I'd written to him after the. Here you go. Whoop, wrong one. So a little follow up after the match, and I said I figured I'd give you some peacetime after your awesome match last Sunday. What a time warp that was. Caught myself popping like a mark again, like I used to in our matches. But what an awesome show, top to bottom. All the kids I thought did a superlative job, and that made doing color a blast. I want to thank you for the memories and all that you taught me. You haven't lost a step, my friend. And he texted back the smiley face. That's Ricky. I mean, Ricky was ever present, and not just me. Dustin Rhodes. He became that guy in WCW that when they saw somebody that had something, let's put him with Ricky and shine him up a little bit and push him on from there. And he accepted that job incredibly loquaciously. If I could say, he was fantastic at it, and never ever negative. Every night you screw up when you're not quite sure of all the stuff you're doing. He never once said in any post-match talk, well, you really fucked up tonight, or you really screwed up tonight. He would say stuff like, hey, remember when you did the arm drag? You go, yeah. And he'd say, well, if right before that arm drag you had done this, then hit the arm drag, paused, and did that. And I'd be looking out in the night sky through my window, and I could literally, like a movie, see what he was saying, like a movie playing in the sky. I could see exactly what he was talking about. And I'd look at it and go, wow, I never thought of that. But he got you thinking in those terms, thinking outside of just heat, shine, come back, go home, to expand it out to such a much more complicated thing, but a lot more controllable. Steamboat, like I always tell fans, and I think some think I'm embellishing, if Steamboat wants just that corner to pop, he'll get just that corner to pop. To this day, I don't know how he does it, but it's like he's got them in a trance or something. It's really incredible to watch. And if you watch those old tapes, like I said in the text, of me in the match with him, I'll be on the apron, and you'll see Steamboat take a bump, and he'll go like this. He'll be able to sit up, and he'll fall back down. Well, what he would do that because he didn't have long hair. He'd cover up his calling. What he's saying is, get in the match, partner, because I'm over there like this, watching like a fan, right? Oh, yeah, I'm supposed to be out here working, right? He was so in control of everything. But just a really, really good dude on top of that. So for me, just really, really fond memories. But great. I'm glad somebody asked about Steamboat.
Yeah, in fact, that wasn't the only person. GA313 asked basically the same thing. I want to apologise to you as well. I've only seen clips, and there was no commentary on any of the clips, so I didn't know that you were doing the commentary for it that night.
Yeah, no, it's and there's something that I do in the middle of it, just being me, my character. I turn my back to Joe Dombrowski, who I've known since he's probably gotten into business. He lives probably 20 miles from me. And I turned my back to him completely in character. I said, hey, can you do me a favor, Joe? Is my bald spot showing? He looks, he goes, oh, no, I don't see one. I said, because I ain't got one. So somebody after the show said, I can't believe you did that to Joe. I said, did what? He said, made fun of his bald spot. I said, he didn't have a bald spot. He goes, yeah, he does. And I look over, and sure enough, he does. I went, yeah, totally meant for other people, not for Joe, but He's a very good play-by-play guy. It makes, if you got a great play-by-play guy like I did with Joey Styles or now Joe, it makes the color job a whole lot easier. And I've been very fortunate to work with guys like that.